Hi, everyone. Welcome to TokiTV. Thank you for joining us today. Hello, we got Marcia in the car, Alejandro in Florida, Giles, Stina. You still on San Juan Island? I still have you listed as San Juan Island. I'll need to change that. Cindy, Deborah, Howard, Deb Cruz, and myself, we all welcome you. Thank you for being with us today. Let's do just some real quick check-ins with everyone super fast before we get grounded. Marcia, I know you're traveling, so we'll start with you.
Oh, thank you. I had a lovely weekend with my little granddaughter, and we're just heading back. It was a beautiful time, and I'm glad I could get on. I had some trouble because I'm on the road, but yay, it's good to see you lovely people.
Awesome. Thanks for being with us. Alejandro, how are you?
Yeah, I have a terrible week working, but I'm here. You know, it is what it is, as it is. Thank you.
Just look at you. Deborah, how are you?
I'm good. I got my pen and paper ready. I can't wait to learn some more things because everywhere we go, orcas come up in conversation and the salmon. So looking forward to hearing some new stuff today.
Awesome. Christina?
Hi, yeah, happy to be here. Always for Toki. Yep.
Deb Cruz. There we go. There we
It is what it is.
Yeah.
That's
what it is as it is. Cruz is probably laughing at me in the background because you guys can't see us in the background, but Deb Cruz can see everything, and I'm sitting here putting on my makeup. I'm sure I was like, oh, Deb's probably laughing at me. So happy that you're here, Deb Cruz, always. Giles, how are you?
I'm well, thank you very much. In beautiful Friday Harbor, it's quite windy and choppy out there. I'll let Cindy break the news to everybody, possible news to everybody. But yeah, so I'm in town and trying not to rush out to the west side.
Cindy, what's going on over there?
Hi, everybody. I'm on San Juan Island as well, where it is sunny and windy, as Giles said. And there are whales on the west side of the island. Big group, it was reported. Everybody thought at first it was J-Pod, but somebody is hearing transient orca calls on the hydrophone. So the plot thickens, and we will let you know if we hear any updates on that.
That's awesome. And Stephanie and Case are there on the west side of San Juan Island, standing by to see who they see. And so if they start to see orcas, they will join us, and we will we will cut and go live there. So hopefully we have an interruption today. That's my hope anyway, to get to see some whales. Howard, how's it going?
Real well here. We've been just getting some stuff done. It's been nice and bright today and yesterday, and headed back over to the Olympic Peninsula tomorrow. So, yep, all's well here.
Awesome. Thank you. And I know we have lots of people on watching. So Ritas and Donna and Tim and Ula, thanks for being with us, Ula. Gloria, Maria, we got lots of people in Germany watching. Tamala. We'll give some updates a little bit later about prizes and stuff like that now that I see Tamala's name, because a lot of things were sent out this week and lots will be sent out. But let's go ahead and get ourselves grounded, if you guys will. So if you feel comfortable, close your eyes. You don't have to. I'm going to unmute everyone, and we're going to take 3 deep breaths together. And when we release loudly, sound like a bunch of orcas. So you guys ready? All right. 3 deep breaths on your own, at your own pace. So go ahead and do that. All together, we're going to take 3 breaths, and these are going to be slow, deep breaths. So everybody, go ahead and breathe in. We're going to breathe in love. Breathe in. Hold. And breathe out. Did it backwards. We're going to breathe in peace. Ready? Breathe in. Hold. And breathe out love. And one more. Breathe in peace. Hold. Breathe out love. All right. Thank you, guys. Today we have, we're really, really happy to have Cindy and Giles and Howard on. We're going to talk about all things salmon today. But to kind of get us going in that direction to know what we're going to talk about, we're going to hear a message from Ken Balcom. So I'm going to add that to the screen. And it's not wanting to close. Hey guys, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to remove and redo that. Sometimes it gets stuck when I add them like that. So let me get this back on. I apologize for that.
Okay, I'm Ken Balcom. I'm the founder and principal investigator of the Center for Whale Research. We founded this organization to study whales and report our findings to the government, to the public, and to conservation organizations who are interested in their long-term survival. In the years, 45 years that we've been studying these whales, we've found that the population initially was increasing following the capture era when they were sold to marine parks. About 50 plus were removed, and we had 70 remaining. The population gradually increased to about 100, and then it began a very steep decline, and it's had a series of slight increases and greater declines since then. So we're back to 72 whales right now, right where we started. But the composition is different. We don't have any babies for the past few years, and we're very concerned about their future. Now, insofar as salmon, Chinook salmon, which are their primary food, we've seen fluctuations in that also. The human captures of salmon, or the catches, in the 70s, late 70s and early 80s, was in the United States part, Washington State, in the inshore waters, 500,000 Chinook salmon, 22 pounds each on average per year, taken out of this ecosystem. Probably twice that taken out of the Canadian ecosystem, which is just on an imaginary border between us and Canada. That population of salmon is now, or those populations are depleted. Half of them are already extinct. The other half are endangered or threatened with extinction. And they're way less numerous than they used to be. And these whales depend upon them for food. So we've seen huge variability in salmon, and we're getting behind salmon restoration efforts throughout the ecosystem. The dams in the Columbia Snake River system have done the same that they did to the Elwha. They blocked the migrations of the fish. They can't spawn. They can't, the youngs that do get hatched are suffering high mortality in the dam reservoirs. The heat balance and the contaminants, you know, they just, basically salmon are going extinct in the Snake River system, and commercially extinct, at least in the entire system. As far as sustaining the whales, it's just not there anymore. So I got tired of beating my head on that, and I came to an ecosystem where the Elwha dams have already been removed. We're already on our way to restoration. We just have to protect the river from exploitation, and that's what we're doing. And we also want to use this beautiful landscape as an educational opportunity for young people to visit, learn about what an ecosystem needs, learn about the whales, how the fish tie to the whales, how the whales tie to the universe. We're in need of a spiritual push here that nature can provide. So we want to make that available for young people, either by their visit or virtually. You know, this whole place gives me hope. It's still here. It's not destroyed. It's on its way to restoration in terms of the fish will again have access to the river and hopefully get into the numbers and sizes that they historically had. And what did the salmon and orcas mean to me personally? Everything. I mean, that's why I'm here, is to learn and teach and share their story. And it's part of the restoration of the planet that we all need to pay attention to. Climate change and COVID and wars and stuff are they're human activities. They're not the natural system. And what we're trying to demonstrate here is this is what we really need. We don't need to have human foibles foisted upon Mother Earth. So we're back to nature. That's it.
Wow. Howard, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Well, that was actually an interview arranged by Cindy as part of a Salmon Stories series in the fall of 2021. And that was probably the last real interview that Ken did. He did it himself. I mean, you know, I think he had help with the camera, but basically he set it all up and did it, but it was arranged by Cindy. So in a big way, that was kind of his parting message. We're in need of a spiritual push. we have to have a whole new way of looking at life on Earth and our place in it. And so I think he's fully consistent with everything that we're trying to do here on TokiTV. And he is rejoicing in the restoration. And I think that is the message, that restoration brings hope, brings enlightenment and joy and confidence. And I think that is a message that we need to apply to every effort. It brings us joy to bring back some natural bounty and wonder.
You might have, you probably already said this, but I was doing some things in the background. When was that?
I believe that was November 2021
Okay.
that he did that.
Thank you. Thank you. And I was reaching out to Howard and, about fisheries and salmon and the dams. And he said, well, he says, we should probably talk to Giles and to Cindy. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to unmute your mics. Giles and Cindy, thank you for being with us. I want to hear what you guys have to say and share about that. And I'm going to mute our mics just so there's no echoing, but we're here. But we're just going to have a dialogue, have conversation today to bring us up to speed on what's going on. And we saw in that little teaser, we're going to talk about rivers and dams and fisheries and really anything salmon. So I'm going to turn this over to you, Cindy. We can start with you.
Great. Thank you so much for having us today. And I'm really glad to have Giles, my partner in crime here. We've gone to a lot of fisheries meetings and task force meetings and a lot of time on the road reading all kinds of research reports. And so it's good to be in a room with you virtually, at least, Giles.
Yeah.
So it seems like maybe we could start with your news, Giles, about what's going on with fisheries. You've been very involved with something that's kind of gaining a lot of momentum. So I'll let you kind of start with that.
Sure. Thank you. And thank you for having me. It's really great to be back again. It was just, I guess, last week when we had the visit with everybody. That was so fun. I hope the 2 people that got the EBA stickers received them in the mail. If not, you'll be getting them really soon. I can't remember exactly when I sent them, but a couple days ago. So yeah, there's a lot happening in fisheries right now. Excuse me. Soon, I think I've got my calendar here. March 4th through the 10th. At 10th is the Pacific Fisheries Management Council meeting being held in Seattle. I can get some information about that, or maybe Annette, you can Google it and then pop it up in the chat. But the North Pacific Fisheries Management Council meeting, which is essentially the council that is responsible for Alaskan fisheries, actually met here in Seattle this month, earlier this month. And that was very interesting. On the 9th, I was there. I gave public testimony, as did Dave Bain from Orca Conservancy and Werner Wilson from Friends of the Earth. We were all there to speak on behalf of the whales and give an update about the plight of the whales and the status of the population. That was a really interesting experience for me being there. I did have an opportunity to correct some misinformation that was given to the panel by the speakers just right before me. And that, I think, is one of the main things I'd like to talk about today, is just how poorly informed the council is and the public, or at least the public that was commenting, and actually the industry, the trollers industry that was speaking before me. And that I really feel is my kind of marching orders for what I need to be focusing on, trying to do some education and outreach there. So we've got the North Pacific Fisheries Management Council that's responsible for Alaskan fisheries, and then the Pacific Fisheries Management Council group that is responsible for BC, Canada, Washington, Oregon, and Northern California. And interestingly, they are really administered separately as separate councils. They communicate with each other, but by and large, they are managed separately. And I really feel like that is the most important thing that that we need to get a handle on. And I actually said at the very end of my testimony that if I could change one thing or have the council focus on one thing, it would be trying to recreate the way that we do fisheries management and do it from the perspective of a salmon, not the perspective of human jurisdictions. And I was already out of time, and so kind of snuck that in at the very end. But I did say it, and I do believe that that's one of the biggest issues is that we're managing salmon stocks by different councils within different councils that are geographically based and not biologically based. So that's one of the main things that's going on. Is there every year there are multiple meetings throughout the year by both councils where they come up with different decisions about how the fisheries are going to be managed that year. So that's one of the issues that we need to probably talk more about today. The other thing that that is happening that has the potential to significantly change things with regard to salmon that are born in BC, Canada, Washington, Oregon, is and especially Washington, is a lawsuit that was filed in 2020. March 18th of 2020, there was a lawsuit that was filed by the Wild Fish Conservancy within Alaska, essentially stating that NOAA was mismanaging. In a nutshell, it's very complicated, but in a nutshell, that NOAA was mismanaging the salmon stocks in Alaska, and these would be salmon stocks that are born down here but migrate to Alaska to get big. And the lawsuit was claiming that the NOAA, National Fisheries, were essentially managing and allowing too much fish to be caught, and that it was jeopardizing the recovery potential of the endangered southern resident killer whales. So that's a big deal. And specifically, it was looking at the troll fishery, TROLL, not trawl, TRAWL, although that's a fishery that needs some help as well. But this was specifically for the troll fishery. And amazingly, September 29th of 2021, a U.S. magistrate judge issued a report and a recommendation finding, in fact, that NOAA was in violation of the Endangered Species Act because they were relying on undeveloped and uncertain future mitigation to authorize commercial salmon fisheries in Alaska. And so this was huge. So this is a magistrate judge that essentially took all of the information, Wild Fish Conservancy, some of us that gave professional opinions, they're called declarations, in support of the lawsuit, and then also from NOAA's perspective, as well as the state of Alaska and the troll fishery themselves. This magistrate judge took all of that information and essentially, dug into it, and that was the recommendation. We can talk more about the key findings in a minute. I feel like I've been going on a long time without questions, but I just wanted to kind of set the stage. So where we are right now is that the magistrate judge gave her recommendations to the actual U.S. judge. That's Richard Jones. And then Richard Jones did issue a summary judgment approving and adopting the magistrate Michelle Peterson's report and recommendation in full. So that is still where we are right now. Is the other side, if you will, has an opportunity to come back and comment on the recommendations, and that's essentially where we are. We're awaiting the final decision. by the Judge Jones, to the report that was delivered to him. It's kind of complicated. I'm sorry, I'm not doing a very good job explaining this, but essentially we're waiting for the federal judge to come back with the final ruling. And what is at stake here is what's being asked is that the troll fishery in 2 of the seasons be completely stopped, so that no fishery in that type of fishery can be, no fish can be taken in the troll fishery, which is, it's pretty monumental. And what that would mean biologically for the salmon is it would give the salmon, not only from Washington State, but more specifically to this case, fish from BC, Canada, Washington, and Oregon, an opportunity to avoid being captured and killed in Alaska and come all the way back to their Needle River down here, and in the process swimming through and past the potential open mouths of killer whales. And so this is a big deal. Of course, as you can imagine, the troll fishery as well as the state of Alaska are vehemently opposed to this. But it's a pretty big case, and it has the potential to have really positive impacts for Southern residents if this ends up going the way that we're hoping it's going to go. So I can add 2 documents to I can send that to you, Annette, and with a review of basically what I just went over, to give people something tangible to hang on to and to kind of track. But you can also just Google, troll fishery lawsuit Alaska and get a pretty good idea of where we are. Again, it's, the troll fishery and the state of Alaska. The governor of Alaska has said that he will fight this tooth and nail to stop this from happening. But when we're talking about a fishery that is jeopardizing the potential of an endangered species, it's what needs to happen. So I'll just stop there for a minute.
Thanks. I found I'm going to go ahead and just add this. This is we were talking about the upcoming council meeting.
Yep.
Deb, if we could take that banner down, so we can read that. But it's there in Seattle, DoubleTree, and then there's also about the public comment. I guess you can still do that. It's coming up close. Let me see if I can add that real quick or not. Just so
Yeah.
want to do that.
Thank you for commenting on that. That's ultimately where I was going to end up today, is by saying that people have an opportunity to get involved in this and to make comment. And I think we have some comments. There's a group of us that meets on every other Monday to discuss fisheries management. I'm going to say whale people meet every other Monday to discuss the Pacific Fisheries Management Council and North Pacific Fisheries Management Council. And we came up with some talking points for the last meeting, so I'm happy to share those as well.
That would be really, really great. I'm seeing here that, and I know this is kind of hard to read on a lot, but so we missed the first section of it, but comments received between February 17th and March 1st will be viewable upon approval and no later than the start of the council meeting, which we already put up the dates there. But I think talking points would be amazing, and we can share them, maybe a link to them here.
Yeah, I do believe so. The comments that you're mentioning right there are for the comments prior to the meeting starting. Mm-hmm. There should be at least one, if not more, opportunities throughout the actual meeting between the 4th and the 10th to comment.
Oh, great.
We had at the last meeting when I was there on the 9th, we had people calling in and giving comment virtually as well as in person.
Okay, very cool. Very cool. Thank you. And I'm like trying to do some stuff in the background, but I'm blown away by that. I don't know, Deb Cruz, do we have any questions? Some people are saying that talking points will be really great. Rita says that her daughter attended the last virtual one, and it was kind of intimidating. So I think having some talking points would be fabulous.
Yeah, you know, Cindy and I and a number of other whale people have, I think it was in 2013 that I attended my first Pacific Fisheries Management Council meeting. And I think intimidating is a really fantastic word to describe the feeling of being at those meetings, and even more so to try and wade through the documentation that they provide on the website. It's incredibly dense material. They build on decades of work that they have done as a work group, and so to just kind of come in cold, I guess is a good way to describe it, without any experience, is very daunting. But I think the important thing is to figure out, we need to figure out exactly when the public comment period is. And by the way, the council talks about everything fisheries related, not just Chinook salmon, certainly not killer whales. They talk about everything from crab to anything that is a fishery. They're discussing all of that, and so the key here is to wade through the agenda to try and come up with the best time to pop in. I do know I have sat through multiple days of these meetings, and they, they're hard to sit through because a lot of it is not directly pertinent to the southern residents and the prey that they rely on. But it is important to be there for that part of the agenda that does cover that, in order to be a voice for the whales.
And what I'm reading here, I just lost it. I'll put this link up too, but the March 2023 council meeting, there's a web page just for that. And it says to keep tabs there to see when public comments will be. And then there's also instructions. There's also instructions here for public comment. So I'll put that link up, and but I won't take up too much time talking specifically about that, but I'll put that link up.
One other thing I thought I would add in terms of fisheries, some of you may have heard of Amendment 21 that NOAA put forth as part of the fishery management plan. And they had, they created a work group, NOAA did, to discuss the effects of ocean fisheries on southern residents. And after a number of different meetings, they set a threshold, basically, where if Chinook salmon fell below that threshold, which at the time was 966,000 fish, then management actions would kick in. And these can include, changing the harvest numbers, area closures, and things like that. So that went into effect. And then just recently, not too long ago, they proposed reducing that threshold number to, I think it was 620,000 or something like that. And that was based on some new modeling that they had done. So they had more accurate models that ended up adjusting the historical and the forecasted salmon abundance numbers. And so because of those more accurate models, they ended up reducing that threshold. So basically, it's not really a reduction per se. It's basically just them acknowledging that their original numbers were not accurate. And so they changed the threshold to kind of balance that. But what's really important to remember is that those original numbers for that threshold were actually based on salmon abundance during years when the southern residents were in a steep decline. And so many of us actually commented that that threshold should be based on salmon abundance during years when the southern residents were actually successfully reproducing and increasing in number. So that's still kind of an ongoing issue that we're dealing with as well. I mean, having a threshold set was actually pretty monumental. It was a big thing. It was the kind of the first time that southern residents had been specifically included in fisheries management. Up until that point, they were just basically considered ocean conditions or, ocean abundance. And so this was the first time that they had been, set aside as almost a stakeholder. So it was pretty huge. And I don't want to downplay that, but a lot of us feel that that number should have been higher, and it should have been based on years when the southern residents were actually doing better rather than declining. So definitely some progress there, but still some work needs to be done.
Yeah, one of the very frustrating things about that was during that stakeholder, there was a series of meetings that Cindy's talking about that were specifically about southern residents and the salmon that they need. And as somebody who was on the paper, the 2017 paper with the Wasser et al. Paper showing that 69% of females who are getting pregnant in the southern resident population are not able to bring their calves to term because they're nutritionally deprived. So these are females that are getting pregnant and spontaneously miscarrying, and or they give birth to a baby and it dies right away, like it was the case with J35. They did not take into consideration those potential lives that when estimating the abundance needed, when coming up with that threshold, they refused to, even though every time I got to make a comment at those public meetings, I was asking them to factor in those potential mouths, those potential babies, or potential whales. They would not do it, and so that would have adjusted the level in a way that as Cindy says, I think they based it on the lowest 7 years back. I can't remember what the time frame was exactly, but that's not how you come up with management. It should be, it's like you're managing to the lowest denominator possible. And we wanted, we need it to be where there's not just down to the last fish, but more than enough fish for these animals. And that's not the case. But that being said, what Cindy is saying, as far as the whales just even being considered to any degree publicly, was a change. Because when we first went to our first fisheries management meeting, and I think it was in 2013 or 14, we were approached by the president at the time, who came around the table to shake our hands and welcome us to the meeting. And he told us at that point that they had never had whale people at fisheries management meetings. And then he actually went on to say that we shouldn't be there at the Pacific Fisheries Management Council meeting, but rather spending our time at the North Pacific Fisheries Management Council meetings, which again, only cover the North Pacific one is only for Alaska, because this gentleman said that, essentially the Washington fish are by far the most number of Washington fish are being caught in Alaskan waters, not in Washington waters. And that we should be up there advocating for fish to be left in the water so that they can make it closer to their natal rivers down here. In his case, he was saying so that they would be intercepted by Washington fisher folk, but they would also mean more fish potential for the whales to intercept.
Is there anything else we want to add on fisheries, Giles, or should we move on to dams?
No, I think that's about it. I think if people can get involved with the public comments, that would be fantastic.
That'd be great. So what we'll do is, Giles, whenever you send that to me, we'll make sure we get it posted on this page. And then also what I could do is just create it as like a web link as well, so that people can just, and then I'll add it as a comment here. So whenever we get that, we'll get that out to you guys. And the pre-comment, like I said, is May 1st. And then I also put a link. People are going to have to scroll through, but there's also a link here specifically for that will show the agenda as it gets closer, as to when public comment will be during that time. Howard, I was trying to unmute you, but I don't know. Is there something you wanted to say about the fisheries before we move on?
Well, I muted myself because we're getting a thunderous rainstorm right now that is pounding on the roof. And I don't know if you can hear that, but it's making a lot of noise in here. But I did just want to say to Giles and Cindy, this has been incredibly informative. I think you've really done an incredibly good job. Oh, we're getting hail. Yeah, okay, well, that's part of the pounding on the roof too. Yeah, all right. Anyway, but you've interpreted this thicket of information and long histories and all this complicated, politics and everything that goes into the topic of fisheries, and distilled it into what's happening now, what's led up to it, what you and Cindy and other whale people have done in the meetings to bring awareness that orcas need fish too. And I think you've done a beautiful job, so I really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Howie.
So I don't know, where do we want to go from here? We can talk about dams now, if you like. Cindy is focused on the proposed Chehalis Dam, and that is certainly in flux right now. I don't know where it stands, what the political situation is there about it. So Cindy can bring us up to date on that particular dam, which is, of course, in a salmon producing river in southwestern Washington.
Yeah, I can give a little update on that. So for those of you who aren't aware what's going on with the Chehalis Dam, the Chehalis is in southern Washington, flows out to the Pacific Ocean at Grays Harbor. It is, in some years, the largest producer of wild, meaning non-hatchery salmon in Washington state. The spring Chinook, none of the salmon in the Chehalis are listed as endangered right now, but the spring Chinook are definitely in major decline. But the point is, there is still a chance to save them. And, one of the things to keep in mind is that in addition to restoring habitat all throughout the range of southern residents, we also need to protect the habitat that we still have. And that's where the Chehalis comes in. It's one of the only remaining free-flowing rivers on the West Coast, but there's actually a pretty big, significant dam that has been proposed on the Chehalis River because of flooding. So it doesn't have anything to do with irrigation or transportation or power. It's all for flood mitigation. And the people who have proposed the dam, the Chehalis Basin Board, what they're saying is that they don't believe the dam would have huge impacts because it would be open most of the time. And so there would be access for salmon. They would be able to travel through the area. During times of major flooding, that's when it would close to protect the nearby areas. But just the construction of the dam would actually destroy the salmon habitat. And where they are proposing constructing it is a Chinook salmon in particular, spawning area. And it also happens to be a sacred spot for the Chehalis people. So it's just the area that they're proposing is not a good spot. Anywhere in the Chehalis would not be a good spot, but particularly that one. And we do know that southern residents rely on Chinook salmon from the Chehalis River. There was a priority Chinook stocks report that was prepared by NOAA and Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife a few years ago. And it did list Chehalis River salmon as, one of the stocks that they rely on. That's a priority for them. So this has been a battle for a while. There have been environmental impact statements done both federally and with the state. Because of a lot of the comments that came in from people opposed to the dam and particularly from tribes in the area, Governor Inslee actually directed the Chehalis Basin Board to put a pause on the environmental impact process and look at some non-dam alternatives, which was good news. So they actually put together a committee called LAND, Local Actions Non-Dam is what that stands for. And they met for a year, and they just within the last month or so came out with their report that has 4 options that do not include a dam. And they're basically trying to figure out which of those 4 options to recommend to the board. The 4th option that they came up with would actually protect as many structures as the dam would. So that's great. It does include things like levees and river diversions. So we still need to know what impact those would have on salmon, as opposed to a dam. So there's still a lot of work being done, but it's good news so far. They are coming up with non-dam alternatives, and it's just going to be really important when things start heating up again to get people's comments. So just like we mentioned with fisheries, it's really important if you live in Washington in particular to write to your legislators when the time comes and say that you oppose a dam and you want them to go with habitat recovery options and non-dam alternatives instead. So right now we're kind of in a waiting game to see what ends up happening with these proposals. And then we can certainly let you know when it's time to make comments and to kind of support these non-dam alternatives.
Yeah, that would be awesome. If when that time is, just give me a call and we'll make sure we get you guys back up here so everybody can be prepped and ready to go for that.
Definitely. Yeah. It's just important to remember in this day and age where we're trying to take down as many dams as we can, like the Klamath River dams are slated to start coming down this summer, with the other 3 coming down in 2024. So that's great news. And, we have the Elwha dams come down, and we're working towards the Snake River, and yet there's more dam proposals happening to build new ones. So we have to keep those in mind as well.
Thank you. Heather sent this, and I don't know if I'm going to make us jump around too much or not, but it's all relevant. Giles, Heather sent these she wanted us to share. She thought it would be helpful to the conversation that we're having right now. I don't know if you could see what I put up on the screen there. I don't know if there's anything you want to say about that, or if just to share the information, because you were talking about this earlier.
Yeah, I think that's an incredibly important graphic right there. Who put that together?
Heather did. Let me get Heather's last name. I'm so sorry, Heather. Nicholson. Heather Nicholson.
Oh, good job, Heather. Yeah, this is fantastic, because this is telling you specifically which rivers and which runs are in the kind of worst shape. Which should help you, if you are a salmon eater, which I would say that's probably a Chinook salmon eater, or really any of the species except pink. I'd say eat pinks like crazy. This is a graphic that can tell you which ones to avoid, essentially. Yeah, this is fantastic. I really like that.
And then there's this one as well.
Right. Yeah. See, these are fantastic graphs. This is the kind of thing that needs to be incorporated into public comments. When you give public comments, if it's like the last meeting, there were, if I'm not mistaken, there were some of the public comments that were zoomed in, where people actually had PowerPoints that they spoke to, and that, of course, becomes part of the permanent record. So if you have an opportunity, I check me on that, because not all meetings are created equally. And I'm actually questioning whether or not the presentations that we were seeing were only for the people that were in person, but it would be worth it to try to see if when you give your public comment, if you can provide visuals as well, because those are just super powerful. What is the, an image is worth 1,000 words. Those are fantastic. And then putting that information into practice, as far as when you go to purchase food and buy, if you're going to buy salmon, that would be something to have at your fingertips when you actually go into the store, or on your phone, so that you can because that's what we've always said is unless the fish is named, unless you can say when you're purchasing it, if the tag doesn't tell you what river it's from, chances are it's from an unsustainably harvested salmon stock.
Mm-hmm.
So if it says Copper River Chinook salmon, or even Skagit River coho or something like that, then that's telling you that the people that caught that were most likely catching that fish at or in the river mouth, which is where you want the fisheries to be occurring, because that's pretty much the only way that we can keep track of the stocks that are being allowed, the amount of fish that are being allowed to escape being caught and spawn, not get up to the rivers to spawn. That's the best way to make sure that we're not overfishing a particular run, is by, again, having a terminal fishery where the fishery is occurring at or in the river mouth, And then at the consumer level, you know that because it's been named. You know, if you can figure out who the fisherman is that caught that fish, that's the best way to buy fish. Going to.
Great. I think those graphs also show the misleading diminished baseline that even though the fall Chinook runs in the Snake River may be increasing toward what has been set up as the goal, that's nowhere near the historical abundance of fall or any of the Chinook runs in the Snake River. So if you set your goal at what it's been for the last couple of decades while the dams were there, that's a low goal. That's really not what the orcas need or what the whole ecosystem needs. So that's important to consider. There are a lot of good questions here.
Yeah, something to consider real quick. I know somebody had posted in the comments on don't eat salmon, but I've heard from tribal fishermen, please do eat salmon.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a balance there.
Well, as Giles is pointing out, it's which salmon you can eat. You know, orcas don't eat sockeye, for instance. So if you see sockeye, that's, not taking it from orcas. And so it's just hard to know which are sustainable runs. But if they're not labeled, they're probably either unsustainable or farmed fish and not good for you or the ecosystem. So,
or for the tribal communities who rely on the fishing to supplement their sustenance and their economic. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that's something I think we all agree on when we're working on these fisheries issues is none of us wants to, impact tribal treaty rights. It's more the commercial fishing and just leaving some for the whales. We don't want to stop any of the fishing completely. We just want to make sure that the whales are getting their fair share. So
Thank you. And that's important to share because I know there's a lot of people who are on and who follow TokiTV, completely, vegan and don't, but there are those who do eat salmon. So if you are going to eat salmon, it's important to know which ones. So thanks for pointing that out because no one wants to take salmon away from the orcas. That's for sure. So for those salmon eaters, just make sure if you are going to eat salmon that you're choosing the ones that are not going to take from them. So thank you for sharing that.
So there were a couple of questions. Russell's got in here, do these numbers take in the account of salmon taken by other species?
Well, they need salmon too. You can't really take them out of the equation, but, it makes it a really impossible calculation to try to include everything. There's 128, I believe, species of mammals and amphibians and reptiles and fish and birds that all depend on salmon. So, it restores the entire ecosystem when you restore a salmon habitat.
So there's another question too from Marcia. How quick does the salmon recover after a dam is breached? I don't know. Well, I was looking for other things on the on the website, so I wasn't sure if those got answered or not.
Good question. Well, in the Elwha, in the first year after the dams were cleared out in 2014, there were 300 Chinook reds counted upstream of the dams. So that means thousands of hatched little smolts are going out to sea as of then. And it takes 2 or 3 or 4 years for them to come back as full-grown fish. And those fish then begin to spawn in that and further upstream to sort of colonize and inhabit that newly opened habitat for them. So that's happening in the Elwha in great numbers. I mean, it's really being restored and it's beautiful to see. The steelhead, which orcas also eat, are big salmon when they're out to sea. And they're an amazing success story on the Elwha. I guess I'll go into, we've only got a few minutes more, so I'll just mention a
We're
little
okay.
bit about,
We're okay.
yeah,
It's
about the
interesting.
Elwha.
We're good.
The steelhead salmon, which can get up to 2 feet or so long, and they were completely extinct above the dams for 100 years while the dams were in place, completely blocking any access. And they have come back to be the biggest steelhead salmon producing river on the Olympic Peninsula, at least. And that is because upstream in all of those 100 years were rainbow trout, which when they have access, when they can get out and back up to their places, when they can get out to the ocean, get big, they come back as steelhead salmon. They come back as, they look completely different. They're like 10 times the size. They're just huge fish, and they have come back in huge numbers in the Elwha system. The Elwha has been mainly re-inhabited in the lower reaches, actually between the two dam sites. But that area is now being, so filled up with reds that it sort of pushes the population further and further upstream. And as they go upstream, the survivors become bigger because they've got further and more rapids and everything to climb. So they need to be bigger to survive. So that tends to bring back the biggest fish, and so it's fascinating to watch the sort of succession of the restoration of the Elwha River. It's coming together, just beautifully. I was also supposed to try to sum up the situation on the Snake River, which is in, I would say, a temporary political paralysis. All the systems are in place. And what I want to sort of say in an overview is there really has been a big shift toward awareness of the needs for wild salmon to reproduce everywhere that they can, to have that habitat available to them to do that. There are other dams, the South Fork of the Nooksack River and the Pilchuck River. They're, small scale in terms of the overall abundance of salmon, but those dams have been reduced. There's a lot of restoration projects going on. So the momentum is there. And the same is true with the Snake River. Governor Inslee and Senator Murray did release papers, long awaited, finally, statements on the Snake River Dam. And they did say that if we want the salmon to come back, the dams have to be removed, essentially. Then they said, but first, there has to be all these mitigations to make sure all the stakeholders are completely satisfied and there's no harm economically to the growers or to the power supply or to the irrigators. So, all of that needs to be taken into consideration, but that was already a breakthrough. And at the same time, the White House issued a statement saying, the Snake River dams really probably will need to be, it was sort of a biological statement, not a policy statement, but that the dams will need to come down if we want to save the salmon. And even the National Marine Fisheries Service, which had really lined up with the pro-dam, protectors of the dam for decades, came out with a paper saying that, the Snake River salmon really will not come back without removal of the dams. So that momentum is there. It's just that getting anything that looks at all progressive to go through the Congress right now or the Supreme Court is probably going to be the logjam that's going to stop it. So I don't know how this will proceed until there's a more, enlightened Congress available, and maybe Supreme Court. Because there will be a lot of efforts to stop it, like there have been. It's been blocked for 50 years since the dams were built, and over 20 years since the environmental impact statement made it clear that the dams are leading to the extinction of the salmon in that system, and still the dams are there. So we're still working on it, and the tide is changing, but there's a log jam in the process right now. So it's going to be a couple of years probably before we're going to have really an opening to be able to remove the dams.
Christina, what do you want to say about that? Because I'm watching you.
Well, I just don't accept it. I mean, I still think that we need to put a lot of pressure on all of the people above.
Yes.
Murray, Inslee, Biden, everyone go to the comments for the fisheries. I think that if we're huge, like that's what I keep saying, if we're huge, we can make it happen sooner. I don't think we have 2 years. I don't know. I guess there are some fish that they're finding because babies seem to be doing well so far. But I just think that we need to have bigger, voices.
Yeah, thank you. I should have said that. You can easily write to the White House and to the governor and to Senator Murray and just keep that pressure going, keep the drumbeat going to remove those dams, and they'll find an opening at some time to do it.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. If we start to get quiet now, they'll be like, oh, well, they're forgetting about it. Stop. And so we just have to keep our voices heard and keep being seen. And like I was sharing with Stephanie about going to farmers markets and stuff like that. It's like we need to still be seen. Maybe they're forgetting how we feel about the dams and how much the salmon need it.
Yeah, don't let that happen.
Yeah. So there's your spiritual push.
Yeah, that's the spiritual push. Exactly.
Push.
House of Tears Carvers is taking a totem pole from here down through California for Oak Flat for supporting San Carlos Apache. But they are also going to be stopping in Lewiston with Nimipu on the Snake River.
Good.
Nice.
So on their way back.
They'll also be stopping in New Mexico.
Yes, I know.
I get to touch it first.
I have some people live on TokiTV in a couple of weeks, so here at my house, so that'll be lots of fun. We could probably have about 4 of these shows, and Heather, we should probably have you come back on, as Heather's in the comments, man, and I hope you'll be there. I hope you'll be there for that council meeting, because they need all those strong, powerful voices. But really, you guys use this platform as a place to add links to things that are going to be helpful for people. If you want to just send me, Heather has my email, and Giles, if you send talking points, and I'm happy to develop one post with a bunch of links that we could put on this page, because this is, we're here gathering for Sk'aliCh'elh-tenaut, and this is her family. This affects her family. And so that's why it is super relevant to have here. There's, and not just her family, but, there's those orcas out there, and we got to take care of them. We have to take care of them. We have to be their voice. So thank you guys for being on here and being willing to talk about it. And I say this all the time, and I'm really not kidding. Like, if you guys want to come on every week, give us updates. I know Cindy's thinking, no way, because I'll miss whales from time. But you guys are welcome, because this stuff's important, and we probably don't talk about it enough. And we have the viewers here who care about what you're doing. So use this platform; it's yours, and let's keep talking about it, and let's keep sharing information. I think that's really important, really, really important. Alejandro, how are you doing over there? You're muted.
Thank you so much for the information, and thank you, Giles. Thank you, Cindy, Howard, and everyone. Yeah, it's right. We need to put down the dams, reach the dams of the Snake River, and yes, we need the salmon restoration. It's going to help the orcas and the ecosystem.
Yep.
Thanks, Alejandro. Christina?
Yep, I say we need to have some postcard parties and some calling parties, like that. It really works. And farmers market, I go to the farmers market and I get stacks of postcards and I keep them and send them. And I mean, we got to keep the pressure up. The pressure is what we need to do because we have to remember they work for us. And I know it's all corrupt and blah, 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 but it doesn't matter because if we're huge, we have a big voice, it'll be great. And we'll get them down.
All right, Deborah?
I'm just with Christina. If you have a farmer's market in your area, get out and talk about it. Listen, put the talking points on a note card and share with people because you're an orca person, so it's going to come up in conversation. And I would just think that let's not be all selfish, like we're all right and you're all wrong. Let's all just find a way to work together. I mean, the farmers need the water, the salmon need the fish. I mean, the orcas need the salmon. So it's like everybody needs something. So if everybody gave a little and everybody pushed a little, maybe there's a way to make this work out where everybody wins, especially the orcas.
Yeah.
Be nice. Let's play nice in the sandbox. We might get further along.
Yeah. That's true. That gets it done best.
I mean, we can do it loudly, but in a nice tone.
Yep. Howard?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just subscribing to everybody's thinking here. I think we're what a brain trust we are. I think we've really got a lot of it covered, and I so appreciate the information from Giles and Cindy today. I think that's really brought me up to date on where the fisheries stands right now, and the hailstorm is over, and the deck and the roads are covered in white right now. It's beautiful outside. So
you look like a scare, Howard.
It's coming to me. I think it's coming.
Okay, let's do a chamber of prayer for Howard. Chamber of praying for Howard.
Yes, we did the chamber of prayer. We had I was calling Deb Cruz earlier, and I'm like, be there, right? Because we had a storm warning here for winter swells. The wind was just outrageous, so I thought I was going to get blown off of the internet, but here we all are. Before we say bye to Giles and Cindy, though, we realized there was a couple things to our prizes last week, and people are like, "Hey, we need to give out prizes more," and we do because it's a lot of fun. But Vicki McDougall, I don't think you're watching, but if you are, you can finish this later. Please send me a messenger with your address so that you can get your Faith Over Fear sticker. We still have some Toki charms, and I think I know how to get a hold of all of these people to send out. Tamala and Case, your t-shirts are ordered today, so those will be sending out. Donna got her cup. Elizabeth, if you're watching, you'll get your Amazon says you'll get your book from Marcia tomorrow. Tina Burrell, your bumper sticker from Orca Network is sent. Becky, your Orca from Orca Network is sent. And we didn't give away, we said we were going to give away last week, and I didn't, a vial of whale poop. And so, Giles, do you want to tell us what exactly that is? It's a donation, guys, to Wild Orca. And they have them, if you go to wildorca.org, their website's really cool, but their donations are based on supplies. So, Giles, I'll let you just say a tiny bit about that.
Yeah, thank you. That was kind of our way of, you'll see other nonprofits that have like the Amazon wish list or, letting people know, oh gosh, we need a printer or something like that. And ultimately what we need are days on the water. And so we went through and added up, came up with some price points, different price points for people to show them kind of, what it costs to do the work. It's all, of course, combined. You can't collect a vial of whale poop without having the gas and the staff to go and do it. But it was just something, we can't give away whale poop, but if people know that they're sponsoring the collection of a vial of poop, that was our idea with that. And people really, really like that kind of mentally tangible thing. We've actually toyed with the idea here on the island. I don't know who makes them, and they're actually disgusting to eat, but there's this like little whale poop candy. I think it's like malt balls or something. We've toyed with the idea of coming up with something that is actually better tasting as a gimmick of something that we could, sell whale poop. But we haven't done that. But
I love
thank you, and thank you for offering to fund that. Annette.
Sure. So Terry says sponsored poop. So we're gonna do that now. Alejandro, are you ready with your game show voice? What I did was everyone who commented, I did my best to put your name on here, and so the donation will go in your name for this vial for whale poop. So Alejandro, you ready to? Let me see if I could do this. Hold on, Deb Cruz.
What I had to do now?
You're gonna announce the name again, like last week. We're gonna add our spinning wheel here.
Okay. We do again. Okay.
And then
just let me know. Okay, let me know. I will do the announcement. Okay, just let me know.
Okay, here we go. So let me go to the names, and we're gonna spin it. Here we go.
It's time. That was my
Yay!
Russell. You are the winner.
Russell, you're the winner.
You are the big spirit.
Russell wants to know which whale it comes from.
Yes.
You'll have to ask Eva.
Ask Eva, that's right. And I also we were giving away $2, and this is gonna get a little tricky because I think some people already won, but I'm gonna try it. So one more. This is gonna be for another book. If you already won a gift, please be honest in saying that. I have my little list here, and we'll try someone else. So let me see if I can do it again. I have too many windows.
And then
ready? Let's go.
Ready. And the winner is Ula.
Perfect.
Ula, you are a winner. I guess she's from Germany, right? Ula Madoni.
She's in Germany.
You see, I know her. So, you are amazing, Ula.
Yes. So Ula, if you already have the book, send me Marcia's book. Send me a message, and we will also donate another vial of whale poop to Wild Orca in your name. So thank you guys, because I know people really like. I had fun with that. Should have been with us last week, Cindy. It was a lot of fun. lot of fun. Last words, Cindy.
Oh boy, last words. Something we didn't get a chance to talk about that I'll just mention really quickly is that if you're in Washington State, the legislative session is going on right now. We've already lost 2 kind of really important salmon habitat bills that ended up dying and not moving forward. So it's going to be really important to make sure that the budget is passed with all of the salmon habitat funding in it. Traditionally, salmon recovery programs are only funded at 50%, if that, in Washington State. So, write to your legislators if you're in Washington State and tell them that you want all of the salmon habitat recovery funding that is in the state budget to remain there, and tell them that you really support that. And then the only other kind of thing that I'll mention is that we spend a lot of time talking about some of these bigger ticket items like dam removal and big projects, but the small projects are really important too. Things like Nooksack and Pilchuck dam removals that took place a couple of years ago. A lot of little projects from our friends at Wild Salmon Center and Whale Scout, salmon enhancement groups. They're doing a lot of really amazing small projects, and they may seem small, but they add up to really powerful salmon habitat recovery. So supporting these nonprofits and these smaller projects can really help create a lot of more habitat for salmon, which will eventually help the southern residents. So it's all part of the big orca recovery picture. So keep that in mind.
Awesome. Giles?
What she said.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. This was really great. And for providing an opportunity to give an update on what's happening with fisheries.
We really appreciate it. I was just I was with some family last week, and it was like, well, why do we care about fisheries? It's not taking, anything away. So it's again, just really that education piece for folks that don't know. And every week there's something so informative. So thank you for sharing your wisdom with us and your experience. It makes a difference. To people, to whales, and again to Sk'aliCh'elh-tenaut, because it's her family. Quick update, not real detailed, but she is doing well. Just got this update today that she is doing well. Her medical and water parameters are all good, and she's holding steady, you guys. So she's waiting. Yeah, she's strong. She's so strong. Don't forget Thursday nights. You want to join us for meditation. We'll close with Susan Clark's song. She is well, she is whole, she is home. That came out of one of our prayer sessions. Those of you on the panel, if you want to hang out, feel free to. We can chat after, but if you got places to go or whales to see, we understand that too. So I love all of you. Thank you guys for being with us, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you, ladies.
She is well, she is whole, she is home. She is well, she is whole, she is home. She is well, she is whole, she is home. Where she belongs. She is well, she is whole, she is home. She is well, she is whole, she is home. She is well, she is whole, she is home. Where she belongs. Where she belongs. Miles and miles of open ocean now before her. She is swimming to her family. Soon she will be greeted by the familiar sounds of home. Sweet, sweet home. She is home. Where she belongs. She is well, she is whole, she is home. where she belongs.